Hello, my name is Dastan, and I am the third year student at the Eurasian National University at the Faculty of International Relations. This is the take-home open exam on the discipline Diplomatic Protocol and Etiquette. So our task was to choose one specific country and describe its protocolian and business conversation peculiarities. And by the way, don't look at my haircut. This is just quarantine stuff, and that's it. So I decided to choose Israel, and let me explain why. Israel is a very multinational country. Maybe in this case, it's similar to Kazakhstan, I would say. And so Israel has many nationalities living in it, and many different cultures was split in one country. So let me start. Let's say Israel's culture has very ancient roots and combines a lot of cultures of different peoples living in this country. Since of the people of Israel come from other countries, many of them speak English, hundreds of thousands of speak Russian, and also in one or two languages, especially in the business circles. So shalom is the most common word as greeting and goodbye, but very often you can hear hi and hello. Introducing a person, you just need to call his name and surname. Israelis don't pay much attention to titles, and after one or two meetings, or maybe immediately during an acquaintance, an Israeli can offer to switch to you. So since Israeli culture is largely striving for simplification, so they don't like to get things complicated, and that's a good thing about Israel. So the only strict rule of communication here is women should not touch Jews who adhere to strict religious rules. Based on this, at meeting handshakes will not be appropriate. This thing is practicing in many countries where is religion implemented, and that's the normal thing, I think. So let's turn to some dressing. Dressing in Israel is rather than modest and simple, and might say unofficial. On a hot day, a man might not wear a jacket or tie. Jews visiting a synagogue always cover their heads, women with handkerchief and men with a pile. Openness, directness, qualities that characterize the Israelis in business. Israelis love to arrange business meeting in advance. So most of them are punctual people, unlike Kazakhs, of course. They like to conduct negotiations quickly and purposefully without going beyond the times limit agreed upon in advance. Any oral agreements seek to immediately transfer to paper. So they like things get done fast and in a best way. This is the interesting thing about Israelis, and I like it the most. Israelis love to discuss business over food. So in the tradition of Israeli business life, invite business partners to dinner after work. For a meal, conversation can go both about professional matters and about family matters. The menu of Israeli restaurants includes not only local dishes but also European and Middle Eastern. So, for example, imagine that you are in Israel, and if you were invited to a business dinner at home, you may not have a gift, although flowers to the hostess or the toy for a child. If any, will be received positively. A good book can be a special gift for a Jew, as Israelis value and love reading. So don't forget about it. Israelis really love books, and that's the very good thing. Also a very important thing to remember that keep in mind religious characteristics of this country. For example, the work week doesn't begin as in Europe on Monday, but on Sunday morning. The last working day of the week is Friday, but Jews work traditional until noon on this day, so you should not make business meetings after 12 o'clock. Orthodox Jews observe the Sabbath Saturday, which begins at sunset on Friday and lasts until sunset on Saturday. All this time, it's not allowed to work. So that's the little information about it, and next I will be presenting presentation about the structure of Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Israel, exactly on the protocol department, let's say, like in our Kazakhstan.
Welcome to my presentation. This is the Protocol and Official Guest Bureau of Israel. So let us get started. We can see the Chief of Protocol. The Chief of Protocol It's the Protocol and Official Guest Bureau, which is subdivided into four departments. In Kazakhstan, we also have Chief Protocol, and this is the similarity with Israel. So four departments are here: the Protocol Department, Official Guest Department, the Management and Budget Department, the Language Services Department. And the functions and responsibilities of the Chief of Protocol of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs have been defined by a decree of the Government of Israel dated 16 January 1983 as follows. So, the Chief of Protocol of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is also the Chief of Protocol of the State of Israel in regard to the protocol and ceremonial aspects of its foreign relations. At this point, I would like to stop and make a little notion and to mention an interesting fact. For example, here in Kazakhstan, we have separate Chief of Protocol of Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Chief of Protocol of the State because I don't know why, but they are separate. Maybe it's more convenient to do so. But as you see, in contrast with Kazakhstan, in Israel, we can see the Chief of Protocol of MFA and Chief of Protocol of State are the same one, is one person. So that's it. Next one, he is responsible for the organization and coordination of official ceremonies and visits relating to dignitaries for foreign countries, such as head of states, prime ministers, foreign and other ministries. This will be usually the state visits or official visits when the head of states, prime ministers visit the country. He provides advice to government ministers and other governmental institutions in regard to ceremonial methods. So that's it. I don't think that we stop here. Next one. The chief of protocol is responsible for the publication of the diplomatic lists and the using of identity cards for the diplomatic, consular, and administrative staff of the foreign missions. So that's it. It's his job. The protocol department, let's stop on protocol department. The protocol department handles all the procedures concerning accreditation. Department also takes care of inquiries deriving from the Vienna Conventions, Vienna Conventions on Diplomatic Relations, I guess. Uh, and the bilateral agreements which are related in working and living conditions of members of foreign missions. That's it. In addition to above, department organized ceremonies. Okay, next one. Department organized special meetings, tours, visiting members, and so on and so forth. Department is responsible for organizing visits of hundreds of official guests. Includes head of state, prime ministers, foreign ministers, speakers of parliament, and so on and so forth. The official guest department is subdivided into geographical bases: North America, Western Europe, Eurasia, Africa, and so on and so forth. I think it's very convenient here because, as we know, workers, the employees in Ministry of Foreign Affairs work they classify themselves by their knowledge of languages or special skills, and I think dividing into regions in work it's very convenient and it will be effective on work at all. So. The management and budget department. It's I think very good department. Very department that has big um, influence on money. Department is responsible for the logistical aspects of visits and official guests of the State of Israel in the work of protocol and official guest bureau. So the department fully counts the all money spent on their visits. I think I understand it that way. So, language services department provides writing, translations, editing services. Department is responsible among other things. So all the stuff related to paperwork, translation, and so on and so forth, consider department of language services. So that's it. That's the end of the presentations. I hope you enjoyed it. See you soon.
So I made my introductory video and I've shown you my presentation. And by the way, the sound and my voice on the presentation wasn't so good. Sorry in advance for that. So I think that's the end of my take-home open examination. And now I'm attaching you the video about Israel and to get acquainted with the culture of Israel at all. So I'm attaching the video of 11 not to do's in Israel. So enjoy the video. See you soon.
Israel is one of the most fascinating countries in the world, both geographically and culturally. The birthplace of 5 major religions, including Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. It's become a major travel destination, not just for religious tourism, but for anyone who wants more context behind the belief systems of billions of people in the world today. Now, because of the complex cultural situation, there's going to be some things you want to look out for while you're traveling there. Here are 11 things not to do in Israel. Number 1. Don't be afraid to haggle. Now, this is especially true in the old city of Jerusalem, where vendors will target tourists with exuberantly high prices, knowing that they might pay them. So that being said, almost any price they tell you in a market is open for negotiation, and I've heard stories of people haggling prices all the way from 50 shekels down to 5. So keep that in mind if you want to buy anything there. Number 2. Don't be afraid of soldiers. Israel requires mandatory military service over the age of 18 from both men and women. The conscription lasts just under 3 years for men and 2 years for women, which is largely due to the animosity towards Israel from surrounding states, and from the numerous wars fought against it in the mid-1960s to 1970s. Now, because of those two factors, and isolated attacks being carried out even today, you will see soldiers almost everywhere in Israel, especially in Jerusalem. Though there is a precautionary measure, and to make you feel safer, so you should by no means be afraid of them, and a lot of them will take pictures with you if you ask nicely. Number 3. Don't dress inappropriately. Now, this is mostly for the religious sites that you'll visit while in Jerusalem, and these sites will dictate that men and women dress modestly, covering their knees and shoulders. In some cases, you could be asked to wear a yarmulke, which will be provided for you, and women may be offered a shawl if their outfit isn't up to code. Number 4. Don't talk politics. Now, it's going to seem like I'm contradicting myself because I fully support you having a political conversation with someone in Israel, but what I can't stress enough is that the conversation should be about you learning from their perspective. Because the worst thing you could do, especially as an American, is to tell them what you think they should do or what you think should happen. It just doesn't make any sense. You're there solely to learn about their point of view, and nothing else. Number 5. Don't get scammed. Now, I usually don't recommend tour guides when traveling, because I think there's something to be said about finding your own path and making your own mistakes. Because of how overwhelming the history can be, you'll get more mileage out of the trip if you choose to go with a guide. And tour guides in Israel actually have to go to school for at least 2 years to get their license. So you should always set one up beforehand. Never go with someone who approaches you on the street offering to guide you. And you get the benefit of being able to interact more with locals.
Look underneath
Number 6. Always tip. Tipping in Israel is very similar to tipping in the United States, with waitstaff being paid a lower salary, with the expectation that they make that money back in tips. So that being said, whenever you eat out in Israel, always make sure you tip at least 10%, with 15 being an average and 20 if it was outstanding service. Number 7. Memorial Days. These are special remembrance days in Israel, where people set aside 24 hours to remember fallen soldiers and victims of terrorism. The days are called Yom HaZikaron and Yom Ha'atzmaut, and while the date changes slightly year to year, it's usually set in April. Most notably, there'll be 2 sirens, one at 8 p.m. and the next at 11 a.m. the next morning. When you hear these sirens, it's very important that you stop whatever you're doing and you just stand in silence. You'll see the entire country will do the same. It's for them to commemorate the people that made it possible for us to be there today.
To watch them. What they're doing 3 times at each head.
Number 8, don't use Uber. Now this is an easy one because Uber actually doesn't exist in Israel. Instead, they use an app called Get Taxi. And this will always be the cheapest and the safest way to get around Israel. Number 9, stay on the path. Now this is especially true once you start to get outside of the big cities. And that's because with so many wars having been fought in Israel, there are still various minefields that haven't been cleared. And even today, there are stories of tourists, soldiers, civilians accidentally wandering where they shouldn't and getting into trouble, or even dying. Now, for the most part, you won't encounter this, but on the off chance that you do start to explore, make sure you stay on a signed path.
Either these people were really small or that's not a doorway.
Number 10, respect their religion. Now, because Israel is such a religious place, you'll encounter a number of Orthodox peoples while you're there, and it's important to respect their traditions. For instance, Orthodox Jews aren't allowed to touch people of the opposite sex. So this means that if they switch seats with someone or move away from you, it's not because they're being rude, it's because of their beliefs. Number 11, do your own research. Now, I highly recommend that you do as much independent research as possible to hopefully paint the clearest picture about what this place is about. That means looking at Israel from both an Israeli perspective and a Palestinian perspective, and gathering as much information from both as you can. It'll make your trip more meaningful, and the takeaway greater.